Next, we are going to the next issue of GRNMA threatens strike over directive to revoke post-December 7 appointments. So let's check out citynewsroom.com, and there's an article there that will be going through that will help us break down this issue that we're going to be going through. So now the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association has threatened industrial action if their concerns are not addressed following Chief of Staff Julius Deborah's directive to revoke all appointments and recruitments made into the public service after December 7, 2024. According to the association, nurses and midwives form the majority of the health workforce and are central to the functioning of the health system. They warn that applying this directive to the nursing and midwifery workforce will have dire consequences on healthcare delivery, especially given the worsening nurse-patient ratios and burnout experienced by health workers. The association called on the government to increase recruitment to strengthen the workforce due to the rising trend of nurse immigration from Ghana. In the statement issued on Friday, February 14, the association urged the government to reconsider the directive in good faith and exempt nurses and midwives. They emphasized that colleagues recruited after December 7, 2024 should be allowed to stay at their post as their service are crucial to healthcare facilities nationwide. Furthermore, the association argues that if an investigation is necessary, it should be completed before affected individuals are asked to leave, rather than suspending them before any findings are established. They insist that newly recruited nurses and midwives who have not yet been placed on the payrolls as of December 7, 2024 should be allowed to continue working until the investigations are concluded. And there you have it. There's a statement released by the association right there. And if you want to go through it, just go to citynewsroom.com and you will find it there. Now, that's interesting because if they go on strike, who's going to be working? That's the question that's on my mind. But Ibrahim, what do you make of their concerns?
I totally agree with their concerns. I mean, this one, you don't have to be political about it.
I was going to actually, do you agree? Because it was the NPP that actually, had posted them there before the elections.
The administration, the government, sometimes I think, let's be clear.
Okay, the government, sorry.
The government, the previous government, not the party. The MP party cannot appoint somebody.
Yeah, so do you agree?
But I understand what you're saying.
Because it was your government, or you're trying not to be biased. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm trying. If it was the NDC who had done so, okay, then I would have said, absolutely, I still agree with the nurses.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to know.
Yes.
And without being biased.
Without being biased. And I'll give you an example. On the nurses one, I can give you something that relates to it.
All right.
But let me ask this question to Victor. But it's a rhetorical question, because I think you know the answer. When does a president's tenure finish?
Okay.
Yes. It finishes January the 6th, some hours before he hands over. Am I right? Okay, so if you have an election December 7th, up to January 6th, you are still in charge. Government is a continuity. So now I'm going to say something that buttresses what I said earlier. You asked me what, is it because it's my party, stroke government? In 2016, December 12th, Daniel Yao Domelevo was appointed as Auditor General by outgoing, but then still current, President John Dramani. I'm saying current at the time.
Yeah.
He was the president and his government, and he appointed him as Auditor General. Did the NPP, or let's say the NPP government, then remove him? Or in fact, litigate, say, why is this man being appointed? No. Secondly, Joseph Whittle. Again, he was either in January or thereabouts. Commissioner for Human Rights and Justice. This is your area, Victor. Law. He was appointed as the commissioner. Did we remove him? No. If the person fits, the purpose,
Yeah.
allow him. That's the only way Ghana will succeed.
Right.
Not because he put him there, so I'm removing you. No. And by all accounts, Daniel Domelevo was good at his job. I understand there was issues and then he was forced on leave. But if you look at what the man did, you know, the disallowance so that you can root out corruption within the public space, devoid of party coloring, give the man his credit.
Right.
There were other issues that led to him being, let's say, forced out, if I can put it that way. We can deal with that in a different conversation. But on the nurses, they're 100% right. On what basis are you now dismissing them? We have the Labour Act, Chris, 2003. Then you can go back to Employment Acts or Employment Law 1987, that was PNDC. You cannot fire somebody without just cause. On what basis are you firing them? You want to say that the process was what? I was hearing Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, government spokesman, talking about due process was not followed. He should check before he acts. You will call that back in, I'm hoping our viewers will fact check me as I'm talking, they can Google. It was around March, April, and then a little bit of, it was July or June of last year. There was an announcement for 2021 applications for the Immigration Service and Police to resubmit so that their applications can be considered. Look at the timeline. From April or May, I'm hoping our viewers will fact check me, there was a public advertisement for those who had applied to the immigration services. I know we're talking about nurses, but I want to link the two. Immigration services and police, and I think customs. Yeah. But that was in 2023, requesting those who had applied and were in the system since 2021 to resubmit so they can be reconsidered for some vacancies. So is this a last minute thing? The fact that I start advertising today doesn't mean I employ you tomorrow. It takes time. And by the time that it matures, then you're in the December mode. Right. I'm giving an example. It's for those institutions to tell us differently. But do your checks before you fire. When President John Dramani Mahama was exiting, national service beneficiaries, their payment was increased from 360 Ghana to 579, nearly 50% increase. That's an additional amount of, let's say, expenditure on government, an incoming government, MPP government at the time. We absorbed it. So in case they want to argue that we cannot accommodate financially this influx, there again, you have to understand that government is a continuum. And the 360, to be fair to the time, was woeful, in my opinion. The increase by John Dramani Mahama, outgoing president, I think was good. And the incoming Akufo-Addo government did nothing to say we're revoking it or resetting it back to the 360. Yeah. So I think in this submission of mine, Chris, I've confirmed that whether NDC, given the examples I've given, if it's good, proper, well done, on what basis are you revoking? Because you assume that because they were under MPP, then that means what? That means what? That these are all MPP people. Yeah. We have to somehow, especially the MPP, with this oral and what have you, you have to disabuse your minds. That is why I think Manasseh was saying that instead of oral, you're given an OCAL. Yeah, OCAL. Oral stands for what? Operation Recover All Loot. Manasseh Azuri is saying this is Operation Clear All Looters. I'm talking Tommy Gayine, clearing the Opuni case, the Attoforson case, I agree with. Because that case was dismissed in July.
Oh, Opuni.
Yeah, no, the Opuni one. I'm talking Opuni one I agree with. The Lithovit, am I right? The fertilizer. Yeah. When you come to your submission, you can dovetail. I want to stake on the nurses, but we can open up that issue. I'm coming.
Afoko.
Amimba. I'm not going on now. On the issue of the nurses, Chris, I'm 100% in agreement. Yeah. Now, if you are a Ghanaian and not politically biased, would you want 5,000 plus nurses to go on strike when you are in labor? When, God forbid, something has happened to you, God forbid, astaghfirullah, at Wale Wale, I'm just tying it in, and you're in hospital, we heard somebody succumb to their injuries, am I right?
Right.
What happened recently? You are in need of medical care and attention. Which Ghanaian in bed right now said, as for me, I want all the nurses to go on strike because my party is in power. So, your party is in power. I'm just being general. And I don't believe that our brothers and sisters in the NDC would agree to what is being happening now. That their government or their party, who's in government, wants to now say that we are revoking these things. When, on the contrary, when NPP came into power, we left Domolevo in place, we left Whittle in place at Shraj, we allowed for the monumental increase, the 50% of national service payments to continue.
Right.
This is what you call governance.
Okay.
And not partisan politics. So,
Right.
John Mahama, revise your notes on this one and be better informed before you are knee-jerking and saying that we're going to revoke these appointments.
All right.
Because, and my last 10 seconds here, we have a system. Yeah, when you go to the independence, it's freedom and justice.
Right.
The nurses can invoke the justice part and take government to court for unfair dismissal.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. So before you answer, we actually have some messages here that I will read after the show, but it's all about what's going on right now. And someone has even shared a letter of a dismissal.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have that on screen if possible. And I'm going to start with Victor. Sorry, I'm continuing with you, Victor. With everything that is going on, do you think the government is justified in reviewing and revoking appointments, or is it politically motivated? I know you might not say, but
No. I listened carefully to Ibrahim when he's trying to justify why it should be reviewed or reconsidered.
Yeah.
But I think that he's comparing apples and oranges.
Why?
I'll give you the reason. You see, he talked about Domolevo. Was appointed, was not removed. He was the head of an institution. Whittle, he was the head of an institution.
Deputy.
Yes, that's right. Even before this MPP government left, after election, they appointed the deputy commissioner for Shraj. He's still there today, just after election. Prior to election, some few months, even getting to the election around November, they have appointed the controller and accountant general. He's still at post. What we are talking about is that when you are to be recruited into the public service or anything, you go through series of procedure, interview, you go through all that. When you go through interview, you are made, the Ministry of Finance grants establishment warrant to show that yes, there are vacancies, there is money that you have to be paid. If this processes that all of a sudden people have just been recruited from 7th, that would, inch up the public wage, the bill. And you do all this one, also taking into consideration the Presidential Transition Act. There's some things, during the 2009 to 2010, that was the time President Kufuor, in the dying minute, the swan song time, he asked that the single spine should be implemented. And the single spine, yes, everybody was happy, but it was an albatross around the neck of Professor Mills because the wage bill had gone up. Those were the things that informed the Transitional Act. So that once you are going to go into a transition, there are some things you do not have to do to increase the wage. It's different from when the institutional heads have been removed and some have not been touched. But these are permanent people who are being employed. When we come to the nurses, we are not talking about all nurses in Ghana. It is just nurses and midwives, including all other citizens who were employed after January, because the December 7th, even before then, we said, look, if there's the need, or you have the establishment warrant, exercise patience in line and in accordance with the Presidential Transition Act. That is the spirit, that there are things that have to be done. Handing over notes, and even the handing over notes you are supposed to do, you need to get the handing over note 30 days before elections.
Right.
So if it is not in the handing over that we have employed A, B, C, D, after the handing over notes, it is not in, you purport that I have now employed these people. Why is it not in the handing over notes? It is not there. It is not in the handing over note that A, B, C, D have been employed. You smuggle in people and purport that they have been employed. Their name, there's no salary that has even been paid before. Some have been backdated. There's no interview. Should we continue doing things this way? I think that, look, I've always said that for justice to prevail, there is always sometimes injustice. Once that injustice is corrected, then now you have a very fine and a smooth moment how to do things. The things has been refined. It has been fine-tuned. It's unfortunate that these people have been caught in this web. When they were to be employed, the system did not employ them, and all of a sudden, establishment warrant. So where's the gift mix? The names that goes on into the gift mix. Let me dovetail that into, so now people have been employed. That from January 7th, their name is not in the system. They don't have all this. This has been done manually. And now, the wage bill has been increased, has been inched up. That is what we are saying, that let there be audit. Audit in all the ministries. Audit, let's know what the wage bill is. If there are additions, which are not in the system, let's look at the additions and what can be done. Nobody is saying that we do not need nurses. Yeah. You see, when the GRNMA, they are talking today, they are briefing the air of freedom. They are briefing the air of freedom. Where was she? When was the last time she came out to speak for nurses and midwives? Today, she's gotten the voice, and the voice will be heard. You see, there are things that sometimes, when you are in some position and you want to speak, if you live in a glass house, you don't throw stone.
Right.
Everybody knows that the husband is the constituency chairman for English chairman for the MPP. That time that she could not speak. Now she can speak. Okay. You see, so I'm saying that it's unfortunate. But once I believe that it is done, look, in 2017, there were a number of recruits in the army. They were sacked. They were in training. 2017, the army commander who just came, he said, all of you go home because you were recruited in the dying minute. So if this is the point we've come to, the two parties, and we have a transitional act, and we are saying that there should be a handover note, let all of us abide, comply with what the transitional act says. Then we find a nice way, we fine-tune a way, then we can say that, look, if you're employing anybody, even before the election, let it be in the handing over note, because the handing over note is the pointer to what has to be done, or we are recruiting, the process has not ended. It should be in the handing over note. Right. So if it's not there, how do you strike me?
Are you saying it should be in the handing over note, and that handing over note should like serve as a policy that will be placed to ensure there's public sector recruitment? I mean, the whole public sector recruitment remains fair and transparent.
Exactly. It's just like in city here. In city, we should know that city
ChannelOne.
Or ChannelOne.
Yes.
ChannelOne has 100 people who are staff. Right? Then all of a sudden, we have the list that is 100, and we are being told that ChannelOne has 150 employees. Whilst within the record, We do not have the 50.
Yeah.
And all we are saying is that, no, this 50, we think there's an issue. Let's look into the issue.
All right, so let's ask
Right.
Ibrahim. Ibrahim, so you've heard everything that he said, and the only question I'll ask, so why wasn't this, stated out, like on,
So
on
let
the
me get
handing
to,
out
the
notes?
Presidential Transition Act 2012, which Victor cited. The key provisions are a transition period, handing over notes, asset declaration from the outgoing administration, and continuity of government.
Yes.
Now, where does it say that, and if it's not inside? I agree with Victor. Remember, the example I gave you was that back in April, and I'm hoping our viewers, those who are watching, can quickly fact check me. There was a public advertisement in the newspapers asking that those, I'm using the immigration, customs, and the police, those who had applied in 2021, reapply. So you're telling me that in April I may put an advertisement, may I recruit you? No, there is indeed a process. So on that one, we're on the same page. Do you get me? Now, so if that's why I said, do your check before you come out. I'm talking Julius Deborah.
Yeah.
Because for Ghana to succeed, you have to do the right thing, whether it's for your party or for a party other than yours. So that one, I don't have any issue at all. Somebody has been employed on, let's say, December 6th or December 7th. Per my early submission, they have every right to be, because part of the Transition Act of 2012, it says continuity. Again, I'll give you the key provisions.
Yeah.
Transition team establishes transition period, handing over notes, asset declaration, transition period, so it's defined, and continuity. You cannot tell me that because somebody did not put their asset declaration in, then everything is null and void, because we didn't capture everything. I think the key things of handing over notes are the anchors within your institution. What are the key policies that are being done now? What are the contracts that are currently underway? I don't think the minutiae, and I'm not saying that having your, your employment details are surplus to requirements. They're necessary. But somebody employed within the month of December, in the case of Shraj, January of 2017, not 2016. But then that time John Mahama was still president when he appointed the Shraj. And we can't nitpick. You see, when Victor made the mention about how the single spine was increased and they accommodated. Likewise, just check whether or not we litigated that. Why did you increase, the national service beneficiaries? It's continuity, which is captured within the transition team. So when you base it on that, I don't think somehow you can say that, because it was not captured in the handing over notes. If I'm employing you in December, how can you have a salary? Think about it. The two don't go hand in hand. You can't have a salary backdated to October, November, when I've just employed you. Legitimately so. Where people have not been legitimately employed. And I think then I'm on the page with Victor. I can't sit here and say that we should allow, then in the same breath say we should not, we should disallow it. But if the person or persons have been employed legitimately, then John Dramani Mahama, the president, should understand, or Julius Deborah in this case specifically, and it was the same Julius Deborah who, as then chief of staff, submitted the application of Domelevo and Whittle Ashraj. The same person. The very same person. He's in the same office. It's not like then President John Dramani Mahama said, I'm revoking these, I'm making these appointments. It passes through certain executives of the office of the government machinery, either the secretary to the president or the chief of staff.
All right.
In 2016, Julius Deborah was that chief of staff who then, processed these applications post the December 7th elections that John Dramani Mahama had lost. But just to come back full circle to what I'm saying, where due process has not been followed, I think as Ghanaians, whether you're NPP or NDC, you should side with the side of Ghana, because due process has not been followed. But where we've advertised from April of last year, gone through, I'm talking immigration, police,
The security
customs,
services.
the security services. Then you want to, because they are part of it. Don't just look at the nurses who have come out. But per what Julius Deborah has said, all institutions should, the chief of is it
The
chief
head
di-
of institutions.
head office should give these names and they'll revoke them. So
Okay.
I'm capturing
It
that.
says
in
they
there.
should give it by 17th. That's today.
Yeah.
Now the report. Now let me read from the Presidential Act. That is handing over notes. The people who are supposed to be notes prepared under subsection 1 shall include handing over notes received by the president and the ministers on assuming office. It talks about, then here it says 3. The handing over notes shall reflect the accurate developments which have taken place during the tenure of office and the projections of development to take place before the end of the full term, the full tenure. Projections. So if you are recruiting, those are the projections that we made, that we will recruit 50 people in this institution. So all this has to be, if the process has started, as he wants us to know, that the process started way back. If the nurses, their process have started, then the minister for health and the rest would have given, or the institution would have given, that this is what we have done, this is the projection. And I'm saying that if there's no projection within the handing over notes, that 50 people are being recruited, and all of a sudden we are being told that 50 people have been recruited, that is what the chief of staff is saying, that give me the reports. When I have the report, I'm going to compare it with the handing over notes to see that this was the projection made, or it was not made.
I have issue there.
Now, if it was not made,
I have issue.
if it was not made, then we can now look at it and see what would be the way forward. Was it proper? If it was not proper, we say no, this cannot continue. We have to reconsider. And I'm saying that it is not that everybody within the institutions, it is specific. It says that if you were employed after December 7, we don't have those projections in the handing over notes, then it becomes problematic. That is what it is saying. So let's wait for the comprehensive report.
Sure.
That will be taken, will be handed over to the chief of staff, and from there we know what will happen.
Good.
Okay.
It is unfortunate. We are talking about citizens.
I understand, but
we're
it's
not talking
important.
only
Yes.
about MPP.
Exactly.
We are talking about Ghanaians.
Yes.
It may affect a sister of mine. It may affect a
Anybody,
cousin of mine.
yeah. Yes.
Anybody, even my friends who will be at home.
All right.
But
so
if it is done, just that they become victim of the system.
Yeah.
The system has not been fair to
They
them.
become victim
All
of
right.
politicization.
Anyway,
I
we
need
have
to-
some. We have some.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some
But I want to
comments
come
here.
back to that briefly.
We have some comments. That's if we have. We don't really have
I'll
time. Yeah, we have
ask the
some
producers to extend the time.
comments
I need 2
here.
minutes.
So.